As always, we're joined by the head coach of the New York Giants, Joe Judge. Coach, I know you're always about trying to force turnovers, and on the opening kickoff against the Eagles last week, you covered it and nearly got a turnover right out of the gate.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, forcing turnovers and ball disruption is a key part of how we have to go ahead and play. So we'll start off right here. And schematically, we've been doing a lot throughout the year, just moving the ball around, and Graham does a great job of that. We'll talk more about that later on. But knowing what kind of returns they can run from a two-deep returner look, it really limits them with a few things. When you know the other team's limited, it enables you to do a little bit more. So through some folds and twists and things we do with our kickoff cover, we end up getting some good coverage. So the first picture is, again, when he catches the ball going backwards, we've got nearly the entire kickoff team, just around that 30-yard line. The guys that are behind are really looking to fold and twist off or play safety levels anyway. So we're getting our levels and our coverage. That's going to enable the penetration and then also the fits off those guys right there in terms of how we have to play it. Now, what we'll end up seeing right here is just the collapse of the return and just a number of players right there. And really what you're looking for in any coverage unit are gang tackles. You're not looking for solo tackles, one-on-one. That's great. Someone's got to make a play. But ultimately what you're looking for are 11 hats on the ball and an opportunity to knock it off the returner. And what you see right here is Gainwell splitting back towards the middle on their return. He ends up going ahead and having to avoid Gillespie right there on the tackle, but he comes right there into Ellerson Smith. And really it's good tackling form. We talk about biting the ball and putting your helmet on the ball and fitting it with your shoulder. That's going to jar this ball loose. Now, a couple things I'll highlight here. Obviously, the ball's loose right there, and it gives us an opportunity for recovery. But then what you end up seeing also is a good heads-up play right here by Quincy, that when he notices the ball's not only loose, but it's recovered, by another player on Philly, you can see, because everyone's pursued to the first man right there, there's a chance off that ricochet that he could have taken. It's a good heads-up play right there by Quincy of making the tackle right there and getting him on the ground. Better field position what a touchback give you, but the most important part is the pressure you can put on right there. So just watch the coverage from behind. You can see at the end of the play that as the gap's declaring, we're canceling the gap with foldovers from the outside in, and then there's Ellerson right there in a good position right there, a tackling form, goes in with his shoulder. There's the contact on the spin, jars the ball loose, and you got an opportunity right there. But again, there's pressure on him at that point with the tackles, and then also there's going to be more pressure put on him later on with the placement of the ball.
Coach, quick question. Is it predetermined, like when you're going to directional kick, you can pretty much predetermine before the ball is kicked what type of return they can give you just by their alignment, maybe two deep or single?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say as a special teams coach, the first thing you want to do is make sure you're sound on whatever you're going to get. And when the ball's moving to different locations on the field and you never really know exactly where it's going to be, you can only run a couple returns to say that you're fully sound no matter where it's kicked. And really the two returns are, you call it a middle match, meaning you've got one guy with the ball and the other 10 guys are blocking 10 for 10 across the board and everyone's on a single block. Now when that happens, that gives a lot of guys opportunities to win a clean matchup and get a free runner on the ball. The other return you could run, is you could double a three, and let's say Gainwell gets the ball right here. You could do a double team on the three and then say the two guys without the ball are going to kick out the 1 and the 2, and that's going to give you single blocks across the backside, and that at least gives you some kind of an element of a double team. Now, because the ball is moving different spots and you have two deep returners, that really puts you in more of a reactionary mode. And they've got to turn on the kick to understand and know which direction the kick's going, and that plays them a little bit slower. So if you're on this front line, normally your advantage is you know where the return's going, and you want to get back, get your feet set, get in position that you're going to block that guy coming from the coverage team and make sure that you get your feet set. Now, the advantage to the kickoff team is I can see the ball. I know where it's going. When you turn your back, I know where that runner's reacting and making his cut to. So when this guy's got to play more reactionary to get on back there, and he's not certain if you're going to take the ball down the sideline or he's not certain if it's caught the other way, and he's got to adjust his drop to block you the other way, that's going to be something right there that makes them play a little bit slower. And when you can't play aggressive on any unit, offense, defense, or special teams, you can't really play effective. And by putting people on more of their heels and reacting to it allows our guys on coverage to play fast and create the free runners to put pressure on the ball.
Coach, obviously this series, Philadelphia is kind of pinned back, and now a third down play, you nearly forced a turnover on the defensive side of the ball. Let's talk a little bit about this play and the different levels that made it successful.
Yeah, so this is on all three levels working together. And we get a 3rd and 4 situation. We're going to give more of a 3-man rush, and we're going to have a mirror player over top that's really going to trace the first thing out. And as you see it right here, you're getting good edge rush and then contain on the pocket, and you're going to get a middle push right here by Leo to go ahead and try to collapse it. Now, over top, you've got a cover player that Tay's going to have taken the back out of the backfield. And you're going to watch Jalen right here, all right, as he's watching Hurts. And as he starts to scramble, he'll be that mirror player who's really responsible for the quarterback. And with a guy like Hurts, you've got to be very conscious of, you may have a great rush, but if you get out of your lane a little bit, he can pull that thing and run and be just as effective with his feet as he is with his arm. So you've got to make sure you've always account for a guy like this in different situations of how he's going to play it. Now, on the back end coverage-wise, and we'll talk more about the front in a second, but on the back end coverage-wise, you watch as this thing declares, so just the different matches we get on the receivers and what Hurts is looking at down the field. And it's a good job by our safeties playing their half responsibility and working in combination with the corners and then the nickel right there on the inside. And as he's looking down the field, he's really seeing what appears to be almost double teams on all the receivers because of the position they're playing and playing some of the low hit position on a 3rd and 4 where they don't have to beat you over the top to get the first down. They just have to get past the sticks. The safeties had the deep field responsibility, but because of their help, you're really getting a high-low combination on these players right here and eliminates them. And then you see Steven Parker out here, okay, that once Hurts starts to scramble, now they're really glued and mapped on down. There's no easy shot for him to go to. It forces the scramble. There's Jalen on fit off the mirror, and then it gives us a chance to go ahead and jump that ball. And again, just put him in a position we have an opportunity for an interception right there. You know, Steven did a good job getting his arm under it. By rule, you have to get your hand under it right there to go ahead and control it as the interception for the officials. That's why it got overturned on the replay. But you watch from the back end now how the rush ties together. And again, sometimes you bring 4, sometimes you bring 5 or 6. This one is here we actually brought 3, so it was really more of an 8-man drop scheme. And as you watch it in here, all right, we get good edge at first as far as putting pressure on him, going level with him, holding it. Here comes Leo pushing the pocket, and then just the extra eyes inside really keep him honest not to pull the thing and run. Now again, Sanders gets on out, so there goes Tay Crowder, maps him up 1-for-1. And then as he steps up, Azeez goes to double back. And this is why you really need that extra set of eyes from the second level on a guy like Hurts. Because once you double back and he gets on out, now he's extending the play and he's on the run. He throws the ball very effectively on the run. His eyes always stay down the field, even when he's looking to go ahead and tuck that ball and go. He's going to look for an easy opportunity on a shot. You know, Jalen does a really nice job right here, you know, coming out of that stack position and putting pressure on him. And now just really challenges the throw. And as you can see it, throwing off his back foot, across his body. It's just not as effective or inaccurate as a pass. And Steven does a good job getting in front of the receiver right there and just giving himself an opportunity for the turnover, end up getting off the field, put the punt return unit out there.
Coach, the one thing that I noticed is just with that mirror, you had an initial good pass rush where there was contain up the field. So when you just run it from the beginning, there's great pass rush up the field. Then when Hurts steps up and then goes back out, the mirror guy just replaces your edge rusher and continues to contain him because he never really breaks contain just based on the angle that Jalen was running at the quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about your base pass rush lanes, right, Carl? You always have contain rushers and you always have some kind of middle push on both sides. Well, with this one only having 3 rushers, Jalen really replaces, if you will, the inside lane for that middle push. And then once we lose that contain when Azeez doubles back, goes inside, he just becomes that outside rush lane to go ahead and put him back inside, as you alluded to right there. And that's it. So you're really still playing a 4-man construct up front with how you're playing it. You're just really getting it out of a 3-man rush.
Coach, Lorenzo Carter got a sack and a forced fumble in the football game, but it's the work during the week that sort of leads to the success on the field. Why don't you take us through what you guys were working on in order for Carter to go make that play in game?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, Zoe had a really good game for us the other day. Played with a real high motor, was very productive, was all over the place, played disruptive. But one thing we like to do with the players is not just show them the results what happened in the game, but tie it back to, hey, this is what we did in practice leading up to it, and you can see how you carried over into the game. So I got a couple clips right here from Thursday's practice. As early in practice, we're kind of getting the players' bodies up and loosened up. And some of the things we work on in terms of ball security or ball disruption, all right, with the offense and defense. And the first show we're going to talk about, we talk second man strip. And what it is right here is you're going to see Evan, Tay, and Zoe working against each other. And we're working a combination so that for offensively, we're working our stiff arm technique. We're working the ball high and tight with the elbow tight, all right, away. But then we're going to look the stiff arm into the defender that we can see. And the point we always make to the players is it's not about the guy you can see. It's about the guy in pursuit you can't see. That's who really attacks the ball and knocks it off you right there. So as we talk about right here, just the technique going across, Evan's going to have the focus coming across the field that he's going to go ahead and every time he stiff arms, he's going to look it in. And we talk about timing, location, and force. Talk about the timing of the stiff arm. You want to go ahead and initiate the strike when you can reach out and touch him so you're not lunging at him and off balance. All right, location, you want to hit that high chest to face area right there and get a quick, deliberate blow and get him off. And then force. You know, you're really throwing a jab. You're trying to create separation from the tackler and keep him off you. But all the while you're looking at the man that you're stiff arming, you've got to make sure you secure the ball from the man in pursuit who's really looking to attack it. Now, what we're training the defensive players to do, you see Tay right here, is every time there's a stiff arm, all right, when it's thrown his way, he's going to work what we call a stroke technique. You see him right here just working to pin Evans' arm down. He's really just arm over and trying to go through that elbow area, okay, to knock that arm down, and then look to go ahead and give him a chance to secure the tackle going behind. Now, all he's really working is the isolated movement right here of the stroke technique, so that in space we can eliminate the opportunity for the runner to extend the play. And then you talk about Zoe on this side here. He's working a couple combinations of the punch overhand right here on the ball, trying to jar it loose. He's looking for the punch with the uppercut if the elbow is exposed underneath right there. You see that being tied over here. If he sees any kind of brown from between the elbow, he wants to knock that thing out. And then he's going to work at the end, you're going to see right here, just the strip to try to rip the fingers off the ball and try and jar it loose. And you see these guys competing and working. Again, this is early in practice, just getting some timing and tempo together, making sure all three guys carry over and work in the game. So all three guys did a good job and got better there. The next phase we're going to work is just through some of our turnover circuit. We're trying to build in all the instincts of how we want to tie it over. And this is just a drill right here. You see the launch pad right here, all right, for the ball carrier to simulate that he's just diving for extra yards, maybe going over the goal line, maybe extending for a first down, whatever it may be. But a lot of times when the player is going to the ground, just naturally, the ball separates from their body. Now, we do some drills where we go down and we touch the ground, but naturally what happens is the nose of the ball drops down. And anytime the nose of the ball drops down, it's not secure because you can't keep your elbow tight. You can't keep the tip of the ball tight to your chest with 4 points of contact if you don't have the nose up. And we train our guys that as you see the players leave their feet, spin move, whatever it may be, and the ball separates from their body, we're looking for good, deliberate contact on that ball to jar it on out. So this was a drill directly that was tying into when a player was leaving their feet and extending out when the ball was exposed, punching down through it. And we take things we see on tape, that we saw with the Eagles over different times of the season that shows up on their tape, and we tie that into our early practice warm-up drills and warm-up circuit to build in the instincts of what we're looking for. And again, you see Zoe right here doing a good job of tying his eyes in, his hand following all the way on through, and then jarring that ball loose and then finish with the scoop and the score right there. And then the final thing, we work this a lot in practice, okay, this is just simulating going around a block, okay, or simulating a strip sack with knocking that ball off quarterback's arm in his windup, all right, and then pursuing on through as you're coming off a block, and then we're going to finish like you're going after a quarterback in pursuit. So we're working the high arm swat right here, and on this dummy right here, you see the low arm, working the low arm swat. And what that simulates is the quarterback scrambles. Most of them hold the ball low and away from their body. And what we want to do is we want to pin that arm on down that's holding the ball and just jar it on off them. And by not swatting and over winding up, you're not going to really go ahead and miss it. So we're going to start with two quick clips right here. And you see Cobb right here coming around, and there's the overarm swat right there. He's then going to go ahead in pursuit. He's going to work that near arm pin right there, and then he'll finish with scooping and scoring. All right, taking off your shoelaces like you're tying a shoe, recovering that fumble to go ahead and advance it. Now here comes Zoe right here. It's going to have a little bit of skip because of the way the clips fit. All right, but you watch Zoe right here as he comes around this bag. All right, the first part he's working is coming off the high arm swat. It also simulates coming off the block and then working in pursuit for the quarterback who's scrambling away from you and building in the instinct of seeing that arm out and away from the body. For right-handed quarterback, this would be the right-handed ball right there, and then working to pin that arm down right there, jar it loose, and then when the ball is loose, having a shot to go down there and recover it and working all three aspects of it. Now, this is a drill right here. We'd like to go ahead and start backwards. So we start with what happens in games. We tie forward to what's going on, all right, on the field, and we build that drill in for practice. Now, what becomes relevant for this drill right here is just focus on the fundamental aspect. Here's Zoe right here on a 2nd and 10 matchup right here. And we're going to watch Zoe just like he's working against that first blue dummy. We're building the instinct, all right, and you watch right there going through Goddard and pass protection. And there's that first dummy right there working on around it. And he's ripping on through. He's working with a contained rush, but as Hurts steps on up, he's got to go ahead and trace and stay in pursuit. And as Hurts steps up and then goes around, there's that second dummy he's working, and he's seeing right there that ball is out and away from his body. And you can see Zoe right there working his hand as he goes to secure the tackle, also pinning that arm, jarring that on loose, and then now it's a race for the ball. Now, Goddard does a good job getting on down here. We talk about the fundamentals and the aspect of it. The first one we really want to do is Aziz thinks he sees a shot right here to go ahead and dive in there. Really want to do is take out the closest man. We've got more guys running the ball than they do. In this instance right here, if it's going to be a 50-50 toss-up between you and their man, we just say clear him on out of there. Give your teammates a chance to recover it right there. And we've got a chance at that point for an easier recovery, maybe even a scoop and a score in this range right here. But the fundamental aspect of going on down with it, you see in the pile, Goddard beats us to it. But again, just the reinforcement of, for a guy like Zoe who works very hard in practice every day of what you're working. There's the drill you start practice with to get the blood flowing every day. There's the coaching points that are made and the instinct you're building in. And there's the result on the field of something you do to get your body moving every day, but something that shows up in a key down for us.
Carl and I talked about this during the broadcast. The wind on the field on Sunday in Philadelphia was really a factor. In pregame warmups, especially, I guess it was to the left of your bench, that goalpost, they were missing kicks to the right, clanking them off the right upright. The wind was blowing from your side to the Eagles' side, even though the flags were different, Carl. We were laughing during pregame warmups. Talk us through Graham Gano's ability to navigate all of that and still knock down this long kick.
Well, I'll tell you, first off, these two clips are really going to highlight Graham a good bit. And he kind of goes under the radar a lot of times. But Graham's a guy that, you know, he's been one of the top kickers for years. And he's a great guy on our team. He's a team leader. He's voted captain. He really brings a lot of impact in a lot of different ways. Things that sometimes go unnoticed sometimes because it's so commonplace the way he does it. But we realize how big the plays they are. So this is an opportunity for us to get on the board right here, all right, in the second quarter. And look, you're dealing with a tough field position game. You're dealing with tough field position issues right here with the wind. And I'd say on any normal day, once we get inside that 40-yard line, we're talking more around that 38-yard line, we're almost just saying, hey, look, that's 3 points. We have a lot of faith in Graham right there. We're willing to try a field goal from anywhere. And then when the wind really factors in, that sometimes overrides some different situations. But the way you describe the wind, the open part of the stadium right here is on that corner of the stadium right here. And it's really blowing in his face, okay? It's coming slightly across the field as well, but then it bounces off the stands, okay, and it circles back around that way. So you get a little bit of a swirl, but where Graham's kicking right here before it bounces off that stadium and carries it on back, he's really dealing with pretty much just a straight headwind. So he's out there right now. It's a 54-yard kick, and there's a couple of different things you've got to navigate. First off, you got to be able to drive the ball effectively and accurately enough to get it through the uprights, okay? The other thing is you've got to make sure you kick it with enough elevation that these guys on the rush can't get their hands up and get a piece of it. That's easier said than done because the more elevation you get, the more the wind can play with that ball. And along the way, you need good protection up front. So this is really how everything ties together. You know, the operation with Casey to Riley to Graham, getting this thing on through, but then the protection up front to give them the opportunity to have a clean operation is really good. So we're going to watch from the side view right here and just watching how there's almost no movement up front, and that's clutch right there. You know, when you can stonewall the rush, and the Eagles have a very, very talented field goal rush with guys that have blocked a lot in their careers, okay, that gives you the ability to hit this thing, and Graham gets naturally just good elevation. You see this thing clear right here. You know, there's almost no movement on the line of scrimmage, so he can really attack that ball and allows him to get it up, but still at the same time drive it a little more through this wind. When you watch from the back end, it's just a good shot of, you know, how much the wind is directly in his face like this, guys, and he's got to get this thing not only down the field, but he's got to get it where he's going to kick that thing on that slight angle into the upright. So his entire kick at this point is truly into the wind. That wind's coming out of that open end in his face. So he's kicking this thing the entire time. It's a really good example. You see Riley right there with the hold. And again, I always watch Ace Ventura knows, all right, laces out right there. Does a nice job of lining that up to the target. All right. Graham does a good job hitting that thing. And you can see, you know, it clears with enough room. But that's a whole lot tougher to do than maybe sometimes you think. And you can see that as accurate a kicker Graham is. He splits it right down the middle right there. That's about as good as you're going to ask for of a specialist.
Coach, you mentioned Graham Gano and how good he's been this year. The next thing we're going to look at is the kickoff. And it's one of those kickoffs where you're trying to force them to field it in the field and then go cover it.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, that's our philosophy, just about all of them. We want to cover every kick around here. And we talk a lot about moving the ball around. We talked earlier about, you know, Philadelphia playing the 2 deep returner scheme. And really, it all ties into this guy's ability to place the ball where you want it. And we've got some different names for different kicks. And sometimes Graham can put it shorter in a gap or deeper in a gap. He can put it in the middle of the field, wherever we want to put it right there. But really, this guy's got to be consistent with it so the coverage knows where they're going. And he's got to be confident to operate in different situations. So again, as you look at this, there's 2 different elements working right here that help the kick. Number one, you've got the wind coming out of this side right here. So it's going to hold the kick up there a little bit. And that's going to affect the judgment of the returner, because to know where you're going to hit that thing distance-wise as a kicker, you have to judge that wind and know that you still have to hit that thing hard off the tee and let the wind eat it up based on the flight. We'll show an example of that in a second. The other thing you have to understand is, are you trying to use something else? Sometimes in a dome, you try to use lights on certain angles. Different domes have different lights. Is it around the side of the field or over top of the field? How can you use it to your advantage? In this instance here, the sun was shining right back here, as you can see the shadows on the players right there. This gave us an opportunity to really float the ball on up there. All right, use the wind to hold it up. Use the sun to obstruct the view of the returners who came forward, and give us an opportunity and coverage to go on down there again against a reactive return team who doesn't really know exactly where the ball's going. And the whole key to kickoff return is timing and spacing. When I say that, I mean you want to have distance between your front line blocks, your second level blocks, and the timing the returner can hit those seams and get going forward. When the timing and spacing is thrown off, it's difficult to have a clean, consistent return. Now, I'm not saying they don't come off broken plays, but it's difficult to have a clean return right there as you play it on out. So just watching Graham right here is an ability, again, just came off the field goal to play before. He's going out there now. He does a nice job. He hits it. He hangs it up there. And then again, Gainwell's coming forward. He's fighting the sun. He's fighting the wind. The depth perception of where it's going to hit is a factor. And again, anytime the ball hits the ground on a kickoff, that's a negative. You want to catch every ball in the air. Both teams do. So when you see this right here, that actually adds to the hang time. So if Graham's ball is only in the air for 3.5 seconds because it's a shorter kick, maybe it's 4 seconds if it goes a little bit deeper, that ball hitting the ground adds about a half a second at times, especially if you get a less than favorable bounce. Now this one here bounces right back up to him, and that doesn't always happen very much. But if it kicks back, if it kicks to the side, or even kicks past them, that's adding, relative time to it. It's not necessarily the hang time in the air, but it's still the time for your coverage to get down there before they have the ball clean and can feel it coming forward. And what it allows us to do coverage-wise is, you see, as they're waiting right there to try to get their timing and spacing for the return, and the returner's trying to get his feet set to go, by the time he gets moving, there's about 10 hats sitting right there on the ball with Julian Love as a safety getting ready to fold over right there and make a play. So you can just see the connection of Graham being able to place the ball, using the elements to our advantage, all right, and then the coverage playing together. And again, you see different parts of the scheme. Here's one right here where Cam's slicing across, Quincy's coming around, and there's a safety fitting right there. Eli's playing through the contact. So you got a lot of moving parts going to it, but it gives you an opportunity there to make the tackle. And again, put pressure on the opponent that every time you line up for a kickoff return, you've got to play reactionary to where this ball's going.
Coach, we appreciate a couple minutes. Best of luck on Sunday, and we'll do it again next week.
All right, guys. Appreciate it, guys. Happy New Year.